And good evening and welcome to this edition of Train Aficionado Live. I'm Jonathan Higgins, your host this evening, and we are talking about the big boy and chasing the big boy. If you haven't done it before, it is an interesting experience. For the most part, there's a lot of people out there, you know, watching out for the train. There is a lot of rail fans. There's the general public. As you know, that this gets publicly announced, through television stations and all the other media outlets, that this is coming through. So it's going to be just not only rail fans, it's just going to be the public out there. So I've been out once to photograph the big boy, and it was, I think it was a couple of years ago, and or last year, I can't remember. The time goes by so fast. So it was an experience. Basically, when I was out there, there was two photo lines, and the rail fans really had that organized. And then I did have a person that just randomly walked into all of our shots. I basically cropped out the lady off of the shot off the slide, but she walked right into our shot and kind of messed it up for us, and we were waiting there for quite a while. So make sure that you're abiding by the photo line. I mean, that's definitely good. In some locations, you may have 2 or 3 photo lines, and coordinate with the rail fans that are out there. And hopefully somebody from the general public will be able to see that this is a coordinated effort to shoot video or photography of the train. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some of the things that you should consider. So let's go over one quick slide. I want to tell you about our swag shop. So we've got hats, t-shirts, coffee mugs, all types of great stuff in our swag shop. Of course, you can wear some of our swag when you're out rail fanning, and of course, it supports the channel as well. We get a small portion of the sale to be able to help us with the streaming software that we have and so forth. So definitely support the channel by checking out our swag shop. The other way you could support the channel, of course, is by subscribing to the channel and giving us a thumbs up. And of course, you can post a comment in the comment section. I try to read those as much as I can, and I try to reply back to some of those. But, I greatly appreciate any comments and, of course, thumbs ups on the video. And the biggest thing, subscribing to the channel. We definitely want to grow the channel here. So many of you probably have seen this map. This is basically the map for the route here. So let's take a look at it on the big screen here. So we could see that it starts in Cheyenne and then works its way to Omaha, Chicago, Fonstoria, Buffalo, Scranton, and then Philadelphia. And then working its way back through Altoona, back into Fonstoria, Chicago, St. Louis, and then back to Cheyenne. And there are stops along the way. You can check out the Union Pacific website for the schedule. I'm not going to bore you guys with the full schedule, but you'll be able to see it on the website and plan accordingly. So the biggest thing that I would recommend is planning for this. Where are you going to start following the train, and where do you plan on ending the chase, essentially? So if you live within the area that the train's going through, do a couple of dry runs. Find a couple of locations, to be able to stop, maybe get some artsy photos in certain areas. Try to find, a couple of different places you can park and be able to conveniently get to those places. So if you live in the location where it's going to go through, certainly do that. If you don't have the convenience of doing that, there are several different websites you can take advantage of. And there's one that's called Open Railway Maps. And this website, Open Railway Maps, you're able to see maps, and the biggest thing that's the most detail is the railroad lines. So familiar yourself with the route that it will be taking. When it is coming out here east, it will be using Norfolk Southern Railroad lines. So definitely, learn those railroad lines, see where they go through, and then be able to study the maps. So this is one great map to be able to study because it not only shows the railroad lines, it'll show what district is being used or division. I believe Norfolk Southern uses districts, and subdivisions are used by CSX, and it should be mostly all Norfolk Southern railroad lines. Of course, it's going through Fonstoria. That's going to be a crazy house with a lot of people trying to get there, and of course parking and all that. You may want to go outside of this area and be able to kind of do your research for a spot or two outside of it. A great thing is being able to find routes that run parallel to the railroad line. Make sure that you drive cautiously when chasing it, and do not go over the speed limit if possible, because you will definitely get a ticket, or you could possibly get into an accident. It's not worth, getting a ticket or getting into an accident. So definitely plan ahead. Definitely you may want to do a leapfrog approach where you photograph it and then head to a point that's a little further out so you can get in front of it, and then do the next thing. If you're traveling with other people, that's a great way to be able to do the leapfrog approach. Yourself is here, your buddy's at the next location, and then when the train goes past you, you go past your buddy, you go up to another location that's ahead of him or her, and then you just keep leapfrogging the route. And then, of course, you guys can communicate to each other, say, hey, it just passed me. All right, I'm 10 miles down the track waiting for it. And then they go down to the next location. So along with, of course, using open railway maps, Google Earth is great because you're able to see, open spaces, where the streets are, a little bit more detail of what you're looking for parking and what such. So you're able to definitely see with open railway maps where the lines are. Then you could pull up on another browser, Google Earth, and kind of look at the same thing and see, okay, so there's a railroad crossing there. There's a couple of open spaces where I'm able to park possibly. Always have a backup plan for each location. Of course, you're not going to be the only one out there chasing this train, so there's going to be a lot of people out there. The other thing while we're using Google is Google Street Level. Being able to see what it looks like at street level. You can be able to see what the crossing looks like, get familiarized with yourself with the area, maybe possibly see where there's potential parking, where you're able to pull off. The other thing, too, is what the shots will look like. Being able to say, okay, so I got a nice curve here. I'm able to get it while it's coming around this curve possibly, or this has got a really nice background. Maybe it's industrial or rural or, farming type of thing. Definitely you're able to use Google Street Level to kind of get a preview of what that looks like in certain areas by certain intersections with the railroad tracks, as you could see here. So, of course, you need to travel with some gear. There's a lot of different options when it comes to being able to carry some gear with you. That's definitely a good thing to be able to have some gear with you. And let's take a look at some of that stuff. So, of course, use a scanner. Anybody that's watched this show knows to use a scanner. Scanners will be able to, pick up, the crew's communication, possibly defect detectors along the route. Remember, defect detectors are definitely handy with reporting axles and such. Sometimes it'll report direction or other things that are beneficial. If it does do an axle count, it's going to be very telling because it's going to have of course, the locomotive and the passenger car set behind it. So it's not going to have an extremely high axle number. So you'll be able to know right away that this is definitely the train coming through. Now keep in mind, the train does go pretty fast past you. So it's going to be only probably about 30 seconds or so, and then it's, moving right past you. So definitely bring the scanner. That is key. Now, one of the things with bringing the scanner is doing research. So with Open Railway Maps, as I mentioned earlier, it'll show the district, the Cincinnati district or whatever it may be, Sandusky district. It'll show that on Open Railway Maps. So that is key for being able to look up the frequencies. So you can use websites like radioreference.com, and there's other websites that are out there that you can use to research the frequencies along the route. So definitely monitoring the scanner is going to be huge. Along with bringing your scanner, make sure you bring some rechargeable or alkaline batteries. If you're going to be out all day, you're going to go through quite a bit of batteries as you're rail fanning this train, especially if there's a lot of activity on the radio. And of course, things to be able to reduce down burning up those batteries relatively quick. Turn off the display light. Maybe turn down the volume. Don't have it all the way full blast. But those are great things to be able to consider. Recommended scanners, as always, people ask me that. My two favorites are the ones that are on the screen, the Uniden Bearcat BC125AT, and of course the BCD the BCD 160DN. Sorry about that. But those scanners will suffice. I would recommend programming all the frequencies that you need along the route into its own bank. The other thing that you can do is you could program in the first bank or first couple of banks, depending on what scanner you have, the 97 railroad channels. Now, if you do it in that fashion, what you would do is basically jot down the railroad channels for each of those divisions that you're going to be rail fanning, and then lock in that particular channel. Let's say if it's channel 22, you'll lock into channel 22. Once it's in a different division or area, you'll switch channels, just like the crew will do on the big boy. They'll switch the channels as well. So definitely using a scanner is going to be a key essential for tracking the big boy. So monitoring that communication is definitely key. Smartphone. Don't forget the smartphone. You may want to bring a brick, a power brick with you in case you need to charge that phone. Make sure you bring that with you. And of course, if you don't already have it, get the Heritage Unit app. The Heritage Unit app is actually going to have a special section on the app for following the big boy. As you can see there right in the top of the screen, viewing the big boy coast to coast tour. Any of the reports regarding the big boy will be on that map. When you click that button, it's going to show that. And basically, if you're out in a remote area and there's not very many of you rail fans that are able to get it, make sure you post as well that it's past you. It'll help people along the way. Most of the general public is not going to be aware of this great app. It's going to be us rail fans that are going to be able to use this for inside knowledge to be able to keep track of where the big boy is. So definitely download, if you haven't already, the Heritage Unit app. Make your username and password, have an account on there, and then track the train through the app, which is going to be really great. So it's going to be a busy, reports in there, but hopefully it'll be helpful for you to be able to keep track of where it is. A lot of people don't think about this. Binoculars. You're probably saying, well, the big boy's pretty big. I'm not too sure if I actually need binoculars. Well, the big boy is a big locomotive, but the binoculars come in handy for looking at the signals. So if you're set up somewhere where you're able to see those eastbound or westbound signals, depending on what direction you're going in, that's going to give you some indications what track it's on, if there's multiple tracks. If you've got a red signal there, of course, maybe it's not aligned for the route as of yet, or whatever it may be. But binoculars are definitely key. Bring those to be able to look at those signals. Or if you're in a section where you can see the straightaway from miles, that'll be helpful as well to be able to see what's coming at you. So definitely do that as well. So that is a lot of information that we've actually given to you. So the other thing to keep in mind, the 25 feet rule, you want to make sure that you're 25 feet away from the tracks. You want to be mindful of the other people around you. You don't want to trespass. There's plenty of places to photograph this on public property. So definitely, be mindful of that. Be cautious. And don't drive like a crazy person, because that is not going to do any good to anybody if you do that. I'm not too sure why I don't see the questions populating or comments on the channel. So I'm going to have to load the live stream. So hold on one second. I'm going to see if anybody is commenting. I don't see them for whatever reason tonight. I'm not seeing them on my dashboard here tonight. So hold on one second. I'm going to see if I can log into this train.
If you learn.
Okay. Okay, let's see. I do have some people checking in on the channel. We've got Chris Schultz watching. Let's Go Railfanning, just name a few. So I don't see any questions in the live chat as of right now. But I'm able to answer some of those questions if you do have them. Those are kind of the things I would keep in mind. So definitely, keep track of where the train is using the Heritage Unit app. I can also assist you here with taking a look at this route. So let's take a look at this a little bit more. So pull this up on the screen again. I have a rail fanning guide to Altoona, Pennsylvania. This may be a good time to be able to take a look at that rail fanning guide. Some of those locations some of them are remote and some of them are popular. So, of course, with it going back from Philadelphia, there is going to be several great locations downtown Altoona with a lot of its overpasses. There will be places, of course, before and after the Horseshoe Curve. Cassandra is a really nice spot. For trains that are heading westbound. You've got a really nice curve there. There's a park there. Parking is limited. So if that's somewhere where you want to go, you probably want to get there and stake out that location early. Or if you're going to be coming there, close to time, keep in mind you may have to walk to the park. But there's several different great locations in the Altoona area. And of course, if you go to trainaficionado.com, you're able to, of course, check out those locations. Matter of fact, I will pull up on my screen so you can actually see the Trackside guide. So we'll visit the website. Pull it up right now so we can kind of take a look at the website and be able to take a look at the Trackside guide. So let's take a look at that right now. So if you're on trainaficionado.com, you go to the website here. I'm not too sure why it's showing in a different language. Hold on one second. Let me just hit refresh. Trackside guide to Altoona. So here it is here, the Trackside guide to Altoona. You can see here the frequencies were updated in 2020. I'll have to check that to make sure that's still up to date. Looking at, you're able to see some shots, what it looks like, in the eastbound direction and westbound direction from that view. There's also points of interest like food and such. And I do give GPS addresses, so you're able to kind of see, those addresses as well. The Horseshoe Curve is going to be crazy busy for this event, so this may be a spot you may want to avoid if you are chasing it. There are locations on both sides of the Glitzen tunnels. The one that's on the eastern side of the Glitzen tunnel is a bit of a hike, so make sure you allow yourself some time there. And then, of course, by the tunnel in is the west side of the Glitzen tunnels. Little town, there's probably going to be more rail fans there than the population of Glitzen on this particular day when it goes through. Certainly there's lots of spots in town to be able to set up a photo line to be able to get some photos of this as well. Crescent is definitely a good spot. Lots of locations along the tracks, especially where where both sides of the tracks have open spaces and grassy areas for you to be able to set up to be able to get photos. So there's another spot there. And then, of course, Lily, cute little town there. There is spots there to be able to get some photos of the train there. And then, of course, Cassandra, which is a beautiful spot to be able to get some really good photos. So definitely check out the Train Aficionado Ultimate Trackside Guide on our website. Greatly appreciate, you guys kind of checking that out and doing some research on there. It would be a huge help for you while you're out rail fanning. And it's certainly, a great way to kind of learn the area. I think that's if I was going to chase the train, that would be probably the way that I would probably do it. Okay, so I don't see any questions here in the chat, but I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening. Hopefully this helps you a little bit for being able to track it. I didn't want to go over the whole entire route and bore you with that. Just wanted to give you some tips, the couple of different websites, a few apps to be able to use, and all of that to go from there. But I appreciate everyone watching the program. Make sure you tune in next month for Train Aficionado Live, which airs the second Wednesday of each month, and the Scanner Guys air on the fourth Wednesday of each month. So be safe, have fun out there, and hopefully you'll be able to do some rail fanning now that the weather's better. And be careful if you do plan on tracking the big boy. There'll be a lot of people out there. Have a great night. We will catch you again right here on the YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe and give our video a thumbs up. And we greatly appreciate you watching our show. So have a great night and be safe.